From Artnet News, it's How to Get Ahead in the Art World, a brand new mini-series bringing you actionable career advice from insiders who have built lasting success in the industry. This series is brought to you in collaboration with Art Market Mentors, a program dedicated to providing professional development and support in the art world. I'm Naomi Rea, and over the course of 4 episodes, I'll be speaking with top professionals in different areas of the industry, from networking and negotiation to leadership and entrepreneurship. Join me as I find out how to get ahead in the art world. In today's episode, we're tackling one of the most crucial and often daunting challenges in any career: finding your next job. To guide us through this question, I'm thrilled to welcome Cat Manson. Cat is an executive coach and communications consultant with a wealth of experience in leadership, branding, and career strategy. She spent 25 years at Christie's auction house, where she served as global head of communications. Before that, she was chief of staff to the CEO, leading global teams in high-stakes, fast-moving environments. So she truly has seen it all. Today, as an independent strategic advisor and co-founder of Art Market Mentors, Cat works with individuals, businesses, and institutions to help them navigate career transitions, enhance their professional presence, and build strong personal brands, which makes her uniquely qualified to help us dig into this question. Cat, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Very excited to be speaking with you today. You're very widely respected in the art world. Many of our colleagues have credited you with shaping their careers, whether that's been through your professional guidance or the opportunities created for them by Art Market Mentors. So I have an initial question for you about mentorship. When did you realize that mentorship was your calling?
Oh, well, thank you. And it's great to be talking. Normally, I'm the person behind the scenes encouraging everybody else to be out there doing their stuff. So I realized in my first press school in 1995 for the Rudolf Nureyev sale that I enjoyed supporting other people to be successful, whatever that means, whether that's a client selling something, whether that's a colleague. And so that's always been a sort of really important thing for me through my career. And then I was lucky enough to manage an amazing team of people and have a decades-long career in the industry. And when I left, I realized that there's a big community in the art world, and it doesn't actually take a lot to connect people and make meaningful mentoring relationships. And so that's what Caroline and I did.
You mentioned that decades-long career in the industry. Did you have your own mentor who kind of helped guide you through that?
I was really lucky to have many mentors along the way. My first boss, a woman called Susan Adams in London. And then when I moved to New York with my job, an amazing woman called Taggart Patrick. I had the formidable Meredith Edrington Smith, who is no longer with us, who was the chief marketing officer, who encouraged me all the way and improved my wardrobe quite significantly. Told me I had to dress the part. And I have had many people all along the way who have given great advice. And sometimes, actually, it's not just the brilliant people you work with, it's the real horrors. You learn an awful lot about what you don't want to be, how you don't want to act, but mainly amazing people along the way. Stephen Murphy, who I was lucky enough to serve as chief of staff, very mercurial, very entrepreneurial. So along the way, many people. I like to learn from people. I'm happy to listen. I'm curious. And that's been really important.
It's great. It's great to hear that you've had mentors, kind of both men and women, kind of supporting you. And also good to remember that the bad experiences that we have can also be learning opportunities for us. We're here to talk about how to find your next art job. So you've worked with individuals and organizations at the highest levels of the art world. And from your experience, what are the biggest challenges people face when trying to land their next art job?
Often a big challenge is yourself. The only person who really cares about your career is the person who stares back at you in the mirror. So I really think it's important to own your own career and don't rely on others doing it for you. So if you can be the decision maker to join, to leave, to go for another role internally or externally, the decision will get taken. And if it isn't taken by you, it's being done to you. So take the decision and be brave. Find the time to develop your own career.
One question that I have, I've been asked this actually myself a few times, and I'm curious to hear your perspective on when building a career in the art world, how important is it to have a clear strategy about where you want to go? Do you need to sort of have a 5-year plan and figure out the perfect role that fits within that? Or can you sort of stay open to taking unexpected turns?
The answer is both. I think it's really important to think about where you want to be and what you want to have accomplished in the next 10 to 15 years. And that'll sometimes help you sort out the clutter of the here and now. I think it's really important to make sure you're running towards something, not running away from something. But equally, imagine you've been out for the day and it's getting late, you're on your long way home. A bus comes along, it's going in the wrong direction. So don't get on. Another one comes along and it's going in roughly the right direction and it will get you closer. Well, then you should get on it. Job opportunities are like those buses. It may be a great sounding job, but if it isn't getting you closer to where you want to go, it's not right for you. It may also not be the perfect job, but if it's moving you in the right direction, you should consider it and keep the bar high. There are no dress rehearsals. We get one chance, so we have to make the best of it.
Yes, and sometimes getting a foot in the door somewhere is enough to kind of get you towards that sort of closer destination.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people talk about a career ladder, and it's just not straightforward. It's not a straight ladder up. Sometimes an unexpected opportunity may take you a little bit sideways, but that can open for incredible projects, incredible experiences, extend your network. So again, I think two things can be true at the same time. Have a long-term plan so that you feel you're working towards some long-term goals and priorities, whatever they might be for you. But stay open to the now. The market can shift quite quickly. New opportunities come up. And again, going back to that earlier point about you be the decision maker if you possibly can be. Not always the case, but it is nice to feel you're in that driving seat.
And talking about shifting quite quickly, a lot of job seekers today actually have spent years, sometimes their whole careers at a single company. I've been at Artnet since the beginning of my career, and I know that you spent around 25 years at Christie's before making your own pivot. So how can professionals frame that sort of long-term experience as an asset rather than a limitation when they're looking for new opportunities?
Yeah, definitely. And we have to remember it is an asset. Whether you've worked somewhere for a long time or changed jobs regularly, which isn't always a great sign, actually, it's vital you have a really good narrative ready to go. I think that I actually changed jobs within Christie's every 3 years. I started in London as a PR officer. I spent time in my career in New York. I came back to manage a team. And all during a time of experiences opening up the business in the Middle East, in Russia, in Asia, digitally. So there are clear evidence points of you having different roles and projects within your extended time at an organization, just as you have, Naomi, with Artnet. And I think it's really important to always be ready to talk about that and be confident in what you've experienced along the way and how you're staying relevant, how you're challenging yourself, that you are extremely relevant in the role that you're doing and you're being proactive, even if it means choosing to stay at the same firm, about what your next career move is. You know, over 25 years, I had quite a few opportunities to leave Christie's, but the way the company was going, the opportunities that were open to me internally meant that it was a very credible career path to keep pursuing. But I actively chose to stay. And I was given a great piece of advice, which is, even if you're there for the long term, each year, what does a performance review with yourself look like? Are you tracking against your long-term goals, financial, in terms of the work you're doing? And so you're making a proactive choice to stay and keep contributing to your organization so that it's not the other way around.
So you talked about there not necessarily always being a ladder to climb as well. I'm curious about those shifts, sort of if you have many different titles, I mean, should they always be or reflect a promotion, or can you sort of move laterally within an organization and still kind of build that narrative about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think in our industry, it can be really easy to get a bit caught up in titles. And while I'm absolutely not dismissing the amazing amount of work that goes into being a chairman, a deputy chairman, a director, a vice director, a senior management director, don't rely on title progress. It's more important to be able to show, I believe, that you have really relevant, up-to-date, transferable skills. You've got a portfolio of projects or campaigns that you've worked on that are really impressive, and that you have extended your network and worked with some really interesting different people and projects. I mean, in my time, I worked with 5 chief executives, 9 chief marketing officers, 4 chief financial officers, 4 general counsels. I worked with specialists from Brett Gorvey and Amy Capilazzo to Charlie Hindlip to extraordinarily diverse, brilliant individuals. And that actually was more important for my professional credibility than the title I might have had for a year here or 2 years there. So you can show progression through how you present yourself digitally, not just through your CV, and also how you tell your story.
I want to talk about transferable skills because I know this is something that you are passionate about and can share on. So, what if somebody is looking to change industries? What are some transferable skills that those of us who have worked in the art world will have developed, which might not necessarily occur to us to put on our CVs?
I think that's a great question, Naomi. And again, my network, both professionally and personally, has extended to lots of people in different industries. My current husband, I like to call him that to keep him on his toes, was at McKinsey for a very long time. And he is actually now a career strategist outside the art world, but working with a lot of CEOs and CFOs at FTSE 250 companies. And he's really, really good at reminding me exactly that point. The skills that we all display professionally are more often than not, with perhaps the exception of the very specialist art identification expertise, they are transferable skills. So, for example, project management, financial skills, communication skills, sales, developing clients, navigating complex situations, managing a team, recruiting talent, being a leader, all those, I haven't mentioned the art word once, and within our roles and within our successes, and I think it's really important for us all to remind ourselves of our successes and think, what were the skills that I displayed or were displayed in that project that I contributed to, that, to your point, are transferable. And from there, you can look at which are the skills I'm really good at, which are the skills I might need to focus on developing, where are my gaps, and then think, if I want to change direction and move into a different part of the creative industries or a different industry altogether, what is the conclusion where my background and my talents best lie for that next step?
Say you're building your CV and you're actually looking to make a shift from the art industry to something like tech. How many mentions of the word art or that kind of specialism should be on the CV? Should we kind of play that down and focus on those transferable skills, or how sort of honest should we be in kind of making that kind of shift?
Well, obviously, I think, one should always be honest, but I think obviously with my PR hat on, I think it's how you tell your story. And again, I think that you want to make sure, not just on your CV, but in your visibility digitally and in person, that you are telling the right story for yourself, so that you obviously have your chronology of where you've worked, but what you are sharing about the projects that you did, I believe, should match those broader skills that you might be signaling to your next step that you have. And that's about starting at the end. Where is the description of the ideal candidate? And I would say, don't be put off by what the ideal candidate description might be, because that will almost always be a slightly wider perimeters than always is necessary. And the only way you can be 100% sure you won't get the job is not to apply. And I think it can be really challenging for us as individuals. And again, it can be particularly for women to hold themselves back from roles that they may not feel 100% qualified for. So I do think it's important to work on your CV, work on your LinkedIn, think about extending your network and talking to people in that new industry you might be going towards, and matching what are the experiences you've had, what are the skills that you've shown to what you need to do next. I think more and more industries are quite interested in artistic, in inverted commas, creative thinking, entrepreneurial thinking. And therefore, I think there's a way that you can tell your story that having worked in the art world can be an asset that could really help you.
And what about in the other direction? What are the kind of transferable skills from outside the industry that might actually be quite valuable to those in the industry who are hiring?
Well, I think that's really interesting. And over my time at Christie's, where as head of communications, I would often be welcoming people into the organization and writing the PR release that would announce their appointment. And then equally, I would dust that off and often when they were leaving, transfer that to an exit communication. And I saw that some people come into the art world and it's just not the right environment for them. And we would have individuals who it was just not a good fit. And they were often the people who had very little interest in art and didn't take the time to really get to enjoy the broader art world and environment, and perhaps came in with a very strong skill set, whether that was financial or project management or legal or whatever the background might have been. It was the wrong match for them. But equally, I've seen lots of individuals come in who had no previous experience in the art world and really, really thrive. And just recently, Julien Pradel has been announced as President of the Americas. He joined from completely outside the industry, but the rigor of how he works, he's incredibly efficient, a brilliant manager. He has so many skills that he learned in his first industry that came to the auction world. Plus, he's patient, great listener, and therefore really assimilated brilliantly within the organization. Another individual, again, is Sophie Carter, who's general counsel there, who had come from a completely different background working outside the art world. And again, she's incredibly successful and a real leader in the industry for helping the community as well. She runs the Art Fund and the EDI program at Christie's and is another great example of somebody coming in. So I do think that traditionally the art world has perhaps lacked, or certainly the auction houses, I hope I'm not talking out of turn to say that perhaps project management was a skill that I would say over the years we learnt to develop more strongly, financial acumen and discipline. So I think the professionalization that some people from outside the industry brought in has been very, very valuable.
I think that definitely tracks with my experience even on journalism. And I think the arts organizations tend to be a little chaotic and a little bit less organized and kind of really do benefit from people coming in who have that kind of experience of a different kind of workplace. And I think it can help tremendously. It's interesting as well, speaking of art journalists, people often assume that the sort of leading qualification that they need would be an expertise in art history. But I've found in reality, experience in journalism is more valuable because you can kind of teach some of the art history, or you have access to a lot of experts who can shed light on that. But you can't necessarily teach the instincts of a journalist in the same way. And so I find, when hiring, trying to keep open-minded about kind of where people are coming from has actually really served us well.
I think that's absolutely right. And when I was hiring for the communications team, we would often actively look for talent that complemented the existing talent, but also extended it. And I can think of examples of people who had great corporate background or experience in the luxury industry, or increasingly experience, again, perhaps in the digital world, because they would bring often a fresh and challenging approach. And it's really nice to have different points of view, different skills, different talents on a team, because it stretches everybody. Not everybody has to follow the same football around the pitch. And therefore, I think to your point, bringing people in who are fundamentally going to be excellent at the skills you need them to be excellent at, regardless of their necessarily sort of art background. Having said that, a great common language, though, of our world is we all believe passionately in the art. So I'm a great advocate for art history as a subject. Did I hire people who had art history? Not always, absolutely not. But I do think an affinity for the world that we are in just helps with the common language that we all have.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And it helps to kind of build relationships with each other as well, kind of sharing a passion about the arts. I want to pivot a little bit to talk about specifically the commercial side of the art world, because I know Art Market Mentors specifically provides mentoring support in that arena. Can you tell me what are some of the primary hurdles for somebody who's looking to crack into that side of the industry, say somebody who is a curator at a museum who is now interested in coming into the commercial side of things?
I have to say that I'm not a recruiter and I am not an HR professional per se, but having now done 3 rounds of Art Market Mentors and read over nearly 1,000 CVs now over the course of the last few years, and through my coaching practice, I do feel that I have learned a lot about people trying to change their careers in a proactive way. And I think the clue's in the title, Naomi. It's commercial. And I don't think that we should be hesitant about being honest about the role of art and commerciality in our world. And I also think now, with a lot of public institutions, certainly in the UK, facing some real financial challenges, being efficient and effective in how you're running your books, but also how you're running people and projects and priorities is really important. I would encourage everybody to make sure, back to our earlier point, that when you are showing your skill set, perhaps coming from a public institution to a commercial organization, you're going to show that you've got those experiences of running a effective, efficient project or team, so that you can really show how you will contribute to the commercial side of the art world in a good way.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, a key part of getting any job is the job interview. I want to ask you to share any key principles that you have for presenting yourself with confidence in an interview setting.
Yes, I think confidence more generally is something that is more fragile than people imagine that it can be. And even the most confident people that you meet have days where they have a wobble. And having seen and prepared a lot of people for interviews on big stages in front of the TV cameras, I know that even people that we all know who come across as absolutely kick-ass have their days. I remember Yussi sometimes talking about the 3 Ps of auctioneering. So I'm going to talk about the 3 Ps of getting ready for an interview or getting on stage. And they're not that dissimilar. Preparation, practice, and poise. So most questions are really easy to anticipate. So prepare for them. There's a trick actually that you can put the job description and your CV into ChatGPT and ask it to generate interview questions for you if you're struggling to anticipate the questions. But really important to prepare yourself and do the work to be ready. And you're probably going to be asked, tell me about yourself and what you've done. Why are you leaving your current role or thinking of leaving your current role? And were you fired is the real question they might be getting to. The third one is, what do you want to do next? And the fourth one is, why do you think you're qualified to do that? And so preparing those answers is really, really important. And then practice. It's really easy, and I can feel myself doing it now because I get overexcited, to forget to breathe and to forget to be calm. And therefore, practicing your answers and making sure that you're thinking the person that's hearing this is hearing it for the first time. So slow it down. Make sure that you are keeping things as simple and as clear as you can. And then the final thing, which I think is relevant both in the interview and during your career change, is your mindset, your poise, as I would call it. And it's really important that you put yourself in a good mindset. And one trick that I use with my clients is we have the suitcase of your career ready to go, and it's packed with just a few items, which are your best bits. And not only do those best bits show off your skill set, as we've talked about before, but remembering them, remembering your successes. And there's lots of neurological studies that show this, put your brain into a calmer, happier place. So my final P, I'm going to add one right here, right now, is the pep talk. What's your pep talk? What's the pep talk you give yourself before you go into a room full of people you've never met before? Just to remind yourself of your successes, and you're the person who did X, whatever that X might be. And having that as a list ready to go to can really help. So that's preparation, practice, poise, and what's your pep talk?
Thank you, Cat. I have one final question for you. If you could give just one piece of advice to someone who is looking for their next job in the art world, what would it be?
Don't negotiate against yourself. As I've said before, there's only one way to guarantee 100% you won't get a role, and that's not to apply for it. So I would say, back yourself, get prepared, and go for it. And then usually it's just business. It's rarely personal. So try not to take things personally. If you lose out on a role to someone else with better experience, it can't be helped. Keep going.
That's fantastic. Cat, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your insights on how to get ahead in the art world. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much. Lovely to chat to you.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to catch the next episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you're enjoying the series and want more on the business side of art, subscribe to Art Market Minute. How to Get Ahead in the Art World is produced by Sonia Manalili in partnership with Art Market Mentors.